Hi everyone, Shai here. I hope all of you are doing good. Welcome to another new video. In a world where development and progress often mean the demolition of the old to make way for the new, some individuals stand as beacons of resistance. These are the stories of homeowners who refuse to be uprooted, defying government orders and holding on to their cherished abodes at any cost. From Young Woo property to the Valkos family stubbornness, here are some of the owners who refuse to move out of their houses at any price. Story 1. Young Woo and Woo Ping. What would you do if you were offered considerable compensation in return for your family home so it could be demolished? If you loved your home, you'd probably have difficulty saying yes. So, you might say no, just like the Woo family did in Chongqing, China. Yang Woo and Woo Ping spent 3 long years fighting developers and refused to leave their home. Trust me, officials really tried to make them go. Not only did they offer a huge sum of money, but they also served them court orders. When that didn't work, they cut off their utilities and dug a huge moat around their 2-story home, making it nearly impossible for them to live comfortably. Over the 3-year battle, the Woo family home became known as the Nail House, describing people who stick out and snag developers' plans. Eventually, the standoff came to an end, at the point where the only way they could get supplies was by relying on people to haul them up to their home by rope. The Woo family decided to accept the offer of a similarly sized home elsewhere in Chongqing, and their house was finally demolished. Story 2. EDITH MACEFIELD. If you were offered $1 million for a house that wasn't even worth that much, would you take it? Ask EDITH MACEFIELD that question, and she'd bite your head off and say no. Developers had purchased nearly an entire city block in anticipation of building a shopping mall. It was a lucrative venture, but there was one holdout: EDITH MACEFIELD. Her home was small and ramshackle, but it was EDITH's home, and she wasn't about to be bought out by developers. Even after being offered $1 million for it, EDITH refused. Whenever anyone arrived to talk to her about it, the woman, who was in her 80s, chased them away. When a construction supervisor, Barry Martin, approached her and let her know they'd be making a lot of mess and noise, he gave her his phone number and told her to call him if she had any problems. EDITH said it would be nice to have company. Over a period of 2 years, the pair developed a close friendship. Barry would take her to the hairdresser and doctor's appointments, buy her groceries, and cook her dinner. He asked her why she didn't want to move, and she said she didn't have any family and this was her home. EDITH's mother had died in that home on EDITH's couch, and she wanted to die in her own home on that same couch. She also didn't see why she would need $1 million. If she got sick, it probably wouldn't cover her medical bills. If she didn't need the money. Barry valued their friendship, and when EDITH finally did die at home, getting her wish, he later found out that she had willed the property to him. In 2009, he cleaned it out and sold it to an architectural firm. The entire 2-year experience is detailed in a book called Under One Roof. Story 3. Orlando CAPOTE. You'd probably be a bit frustrated when you learned that a massive $600 million development, the largest in your city, was destined for your front doorstep. But when you learned that you'd get quite a hefty payout to part with your property, you'd probably happily oblige. Not Orlando CAPOTE. Despite being offered huge sums of money to sell his home, he refuses because he says it has sentimental value. Orlando said the house is his soul, so what good is it to sell your soul for all the money in the world? Now, Orlando's property sits smack bang in the middle of the Plaza Coral Gables. It's basically on a tiny green island surrounded by piles of building materials, dirt, and heavy equipment. Despite the noise, mess, and discomfort, the CAPOTE family is staying put. Orlando and his wife Lucia have refused to sell to flippers, real estate agents, and developers. They purchased their home in 1989 for $135,000 and have received offers of up to $900,000 for it. Still, they say no. Orlando said the house is their American dream. His parents had lost theirs in Cuba after Fidel Castro's revolution. They immigrated to Miami and started from scratch. He said, "You grow roots and acquire memories. If you're greedy, you lose your soul." All the neighbors have moved away, and the CAPOTEs truly are in the middle of a construction zone, but they still refuse to leave. Before moving on to the next point, I'd like to take a moment to introduce you all to my merchandise. You can support my content by getting your favorite products from my store or by simply joining my channel. Your support means a lot to me. Now, let's get back to the Story 4. Kevin Palmer. Walk down Notch Street in Port Melbourne before 2016, and you would have probably been a bit confused by what you saw: an old house surrounded by modern high-rise apartments. If you didn't know any better, you'd wonder whether the owner had refused to sell to developers, and you'd be right. Kevin Palmer knew his property sat in a desirable beachside location, and his sister Margaret said he was once offered $800,000 for it. But for Kevin, it wasn't about the money. He was happy in the house, and it seemed like no amount of money would make the man in his 80 seconds move out. So, in his Port Melbourne property, he stayed until the day he died. That day came in early 2016. When Kevin Palmer finally passed away, the house where he spent most of his life went up for auction. A mixture of developers and people wanting to live in the home turned up to place their bids before the property eventually went under the hammer, selling for $1.38 million. Story 5. The ZAMMIT family. With housing shortages across Australia, developers were eager to turn a once quiet rural location in Sydney into a suburban area with high-density housing. They almost got their wish, but the ZAMMIT family wasn't going anywhere. No amount of money would make them move from their 2-acre plot of land with a beautiful brick home, triple garage, 200-meter driveway, and lush lawn. They loved their views of the Blue Mountains and being a 40-minute drive from the Sydney CBD. So, not getting their wish, developers decided to build around them. Now, their expansive property stands out, with dozens of homes built up to its fence line. Real estate agents say they're impressed that the ZAMMIT family has stayed there despite being offered big checks to move on. One agent calculated that they could fit up to 50 properties on that single piece of land. And once subdivided, each one could easily fetch $1 million. But not only does the ZAMMIT family not want to sell, but neither do their new neighbors. Many neighbors say they don't want the ZAMMIT family to sell because they like living in a cul-de-sac. Story 6. The Valkos Family. Any tourist exploring Toronto can't help but take a wander down St. Patrick's Street. Here, you'll spot a house that's not quite like the others. In fact, it looks like half a house, and that's because it is. The house used to be one of 6 like it on what was once known as Dummer Street. Over the decades, developers bought most of the houses, but one family refused to budge, the Valkos family. At 54.5 St. Patrick's Street, they spent years fighting off realtors and developers to continue living in the house they loved. Eventually, the developers realized they were a lost cause and demolished the half of the property they managed to purchase from the Valkos neighbors. This, in itself, caused a lot of drama for the family, who had to deal with rain seeping into their property and arguments over insulation. But still, they remained. In 2012, the remaining owner, Emily Brown, moved into a nursing home. A man who worked in an adjacent office building, Albert, purchased her home from her. Albert loves the house and plans to restore its exterior and transform the interior into office space. Story 7. Liang. An entire highway had to be built around a single house after the owner, a woman named Liang, refused to sell. The 40-square-meter home is surrounded by a 2-lane highway in Guangzhou, China, because developers tried unsuccessfully for a whole decade to make the owner sell. Despite a lack of light entering the property and a great deal of noise and air pollution, Liang still refuses to move. She was the only homeowner left out of 47 families. According to Liang, she didn't want to move because the government hadn't provided her with a replacement property in a great location. However, that might not actually be true. According to other reports, she had been offered 2 flats, but she demanded that the government allow her 4 flats. She successfully fought the Chinese government for 10 long years. Although the house looks uncomfortable surrounded by concrete and a busy road, Liang is happy. She said she has no problems with the aftermath and doesn't care what people think about her. She also believes her new environment is liberating, pleasant, comfortable, and quiet. So, that was all for today. I hope you have watched the video up to this time stamp. Make sure to press the like button if it amazed you. Press the subscribe button if you still haven't subscribed to the channel, as it's totally free. You can follow me on all social media platforms. All links are given in the description. You can also watch other cool stuff. The playlist link is also mentioned in the description. I will catch you up soon in the next video. Till then, peace out.